I would like to introduce our Toastmaster of the day. The Toastmaster is the director of the show. Our Toastmaster today is a visiting Toastmaster, Joe Schwerling, distinguished Toastmaster. He belongs to 4 clubs, and let us welcome our Toastmaster of the day, Joe Schwerling.
Thank you, Carol. Welcome, everyone, again, TV Toastmasters. And I'm sure everyone watching this currently has survived the current infestation of the caterpillar worms that are everywhere. I had dozens and dozens of them just on my front porch last night. Just the floor, they're crawling up the walls, anything they get to a high space. Good news is they're all gone by the time you're seeing this on TV. And then we can wait for the next infestations. The first order of business today will be presentation of a word for the day and acting as grammarian. And this will also be a concurrent position being held by Rick Davis today. So please welcome Rick Davis for a word, grammarian, analysis, and to lead table topics.
Thank you, Joe. I'm going to use the word flexibility because that's sort of what Toastmasters is all about. When somebody doesn't show up, somebody has a flat tire, somebody else steps in, and that's the way you get people to involve themselves in a lot of different kind of situations. So flexibility is the word. Try to use it in your table topic. Try to use it in your speeches if you're giving a speech today. My first table topic is, what would you like to be when you grow up? Sheila?
Mr. Tabletopics Master, fellow Toastmasters, I think I'm grown up already, but just in case I'm not, what I would like to be is a full-time actress, professional actress and storyteller. Right now I'm a part-time professional actress and storyteller, and I would like to be able, full-time is a relative term, considering how busy I am and my age. I think perhaps it's as full-time as I want, which would be wonderful, so that I know that I'm always in a play, I always have storytelling possibilities, and I'm always teaching. And so I think I'm already there. It's a wonderful thing to already be there, and it just took me a few years to figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I may change my mind. I'm hoping to live another 30 or 40 years, so that will be good. I can have another career.
Thank you, Sheila. Okay, let's carry on this the idea of acting. In the story of your life, if they made a movie of your life, who would play you? Gordon?
Well, I'm not real sure who would play me. That's a good one. I take after my grandfather a lot, so I guess he could play me, but he's not around, so he really can't. But if a person, I actually liked Sheila's question better. If a person actually played me, I would really want to come back as a jockey and have somebody play me as a jockey. And as you can see, my mind is really on the Derby today, because they run the Derby like at 6 o'clock today. And I would like somebody to come back and play me as a jockey, and I'd like to be a jockey, although you can only be 126 pounds maximum to be a jockey. And I'm about 100 pounds over that. And I'd like to put the goggles on, and I'd like to get on the horse and start out of the gates and run that 1.25 miles at about 35 miles an hour on the back of that horse. And I would love to hear somebody say, and down the stretch they come, and it would be Gordon Kelly on that horse. Although I don't know if you saw the other day where the horse actually won the race, and after it won the race, right after they finished the racing line, it tumbled, and the jockey was thrown off the front, and the horse rolled over the jockey. I think it kind of did some rib damage and stuff like that. So I really don't know who I would like to come back as me, but I'd like to be a jockey.
Thank you, Gordon. All right, to carry on the athletics theme, we've had the Winter Olympics recently, and the Summer Olympics are in a couple of years, and the Kentucky Derby is today. So if you could be a great athlete, pro athlete. Carol, what kind of athlete would you be?
What kind of a pro athlete would I be? Well, that's interesting. Since I have very little interest in sports, you can tell me someone's name, but I have no clue who they are. At our district, at our division contest the other day, someone didn't know who Pete Rose was. So if I were to be a pro athlete, one thing I've liked to do in my mind that I thought would be fun if I knew I couldn't fail would be rappelling off of the mountain. That just seems like kicking away from the mountain and dropping down seems like it'd be a lot of fun. But I'm really too timid to do that because I could go over to Sharonville and try the rock climbing if I really wanted to do that. But I think I would be very good at rock climbing. I think there's a 11-year-old right now that's setting records for rock climbing. So probably if I were to be a pro athlete, it'd be rappelling down the mountain. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol. Rappelling down a mountain sounds like a big goal, and I'm just wondering if there are any goals that you have yet to accomplish in your life. Joe, would you come up here and tell us about goals that you have in your life?
Mr. Tabletopics Master, goals. My goal would be to have been able to expand Toastmasters everywhere possible. Not only would people, as Carol mentioned, someone didn't know who Pete Rose was. I hope that the situation would be that no one did not know what Toastmasters was. Toastmasters is a worldwide organization. It has had significant growth in many other countries besides the United States. And yet, if you asked 100 people on the street what Toastmasters is, probably 95 to 99% would say they didn't know. About a year ago, they had a few billboards around the local area that were on a contributory basis when they had space available, because Toastmasters is a non-profit organization. But just to be able to say that everyone who could find out about Toastmasters had become aware of Toastmasters and had the opportunity to gain from all its opportunities. Building self-confidence, becoming a better speaker, communicating at work, interviewing for a job, asking for a raise, speaking on equal basis with your spouse, being able to, in an organized fashion, speak with and guide your children and other relatives. So there's something to gain for everyone in Toastmasters, and that would be the ultimate goal. Maximum Toastmasterization of the world.
I think we made up a word. Well, carrying on the Toastmaster line, and he hasn't probably had a chance to really think about this because he was just elected president of the club 3 minutes ago. Gary, would you give us the vision of TV Toastmasters for us?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master. My vision for this club would be to have so many members that we have people actually arguing and fighting and debating one another over what role they're going to get for a particular meeting, rather than having so few members where we actually have a choice between multiple positions. I think that if the vision that I see was to come to a realization that we would have enough people that were involved in this, that every camera would be manned by someone. We would have an audience that would be able to applaud with viv and vigor, that would be able to let us know that they actually appreciate what it is that we're doing, rather than just having a scattering amount of applause that every now and then sounds like almost a pity clap by virtue of the few people we have. Yes, thank you very much. I want to see this club be known as the hallmark of advanced Toastmasters in the greater Cincinnati area. That people will actually turn on their TV sets each week waiting to see this program. And knowing that it's on 4 times in a month, they actually watch it more than twice because they're that interested in what it is that we have to say. And I think the talent that is here right now, the core, is excellent. We just need to start bringing in new blood And I believe that with proper leadership, not just myself, but with the people that are on my executive board, that we will be able to accomplish that. And we will be distinguished this next coming year. Thank you very much. And I say that with all due flexibility.
Well, I'd like to call back our Toastmaster for the day, Joe Schwerling. Joe.
Thank you, Rick. Now we'll be getting into the speaking portion of our meeting. And our first presenter today is Sheila Mudd-Baker. Sheila Mudd-Baker is as she said herself earlier, a professional, part-time professional actress, and she's also a retiree and/or still working with the Recreation Department in Cincinnati. She's also a member of 2 other Toastmasters clubs, one of which is the World Champs Advanced Club, of which she's president this year. So wish your club productivity as well, and which I'm also a member. And her presentation is what makes a grant proposal win? What makes a grant proposal win? Please welcome Sheila Mudd-Baker.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, you are victims of an experiment. Today, this afternoon, I have a class in organizational communication, and I have a PowerPoint presentation. Unfortunately, we don't have the equipment for a PowerPoint, so I'm going to give the presentation without the PowerPoint. As I said, the question here is, what makes a grant proposal win? Well, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, there are 2,000 nonprofit organizations in the greater Cincinnati area. And what do they all need? Money, 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 money. And everyone has to learn to be terribly flexible, to have a great deal of flexibility in getting that money. Some people think that the search for nonprofits for money is somehow wrong. They believe that the love of money is the root of all evil. I mean, John Lennon said, I don't care too much for money because money don't give me love. And Graham Greene once said that people are corrupted by money. But on the other hand, Arthur Klopp said how pleasant it is to have money. And I think we can all agree that it is much more pleasant to have money than to not have money. Dostoevsky said money is coined liberty. And as the president of not just my World Champs Club, but of Community Shares of Greater Cincinnati, I'll tell you that money is coined liberty. If I can have enough money for my organization, we do a good job. And Ecclesiastes says, wine maketh merry, but money answers all things. So the question is, where do you get money if you're a nonprofit? Most nonprofits get their funding from individual contributions, which is obvious enough. Workplace giving campaigns, and we've all seen them. Community Shares has workplace giving campaigns, United Way, Fine Arts Fund, United Negro College Fund. We see workplace giving campaigns. Fundraising events, which are mostly good for public relations and not really good for getting a great deal of money. And then finally, grants. Some organizations, I am a member of the board for Franciscan Haircuts, which is a group that gives haircuts to the poor. Almost all of the money from that organization comes from grants, while in Community Shares, at least for the overall organization, very little money comes from grants. And we'd like to change that. That's always the point, is the more grant money you get, the more likely you are to be solid. Well, grant money comes from a lot of places. Government is where we normally think of grant money coming from. Private foundations, public foundations, there are all sorts of foundations. If you watch television, and I'm assuming you do because you're watching us right now, that you see on public television a lot of this is sponsored by, and it gives the name of a foundation. These foundations give money to have shows. Someday maybe we'll have a foundation for this show. Well, most of us think about the government when we think about grants, because for years and years and years, people would say, you need money? Go to the government. They'll give you a grant. Well, that was once the source of all money. I mean, it was an endless, wonderful source. It was like the cornucopia. It was endless, endless riches, or so it seemed, at least in the 70s. Well, that's not true anymore. And government grants are incredibly bureaucratic. Sometimes you have to do 30, 40, 50 pages just for the application. That's not even adding in your proposal. And they're very hard to find. There are fewer and fewer and fewer grants from governments. You find them occasionally, like locally, you might find a small arts grant from the city of Cincinnati. On a federal basis, you might find a housing grant for people with disabilities, but a small one. There are small grants that are available. A lot of people go to private foundations. Those are those independent foundations, like, well, let's give the most popular example, corporate foundations. If I needed money for a program, I might go to Procter & Gamble, which sponsors a lot of grants. That corporation decides who they will give money to. And then there are a few, very few organizations called operating foundations that help an organization just build its fundamentals. Not talking about services, but like computer, technical grants, grants to build a capacity. Public foundations, we have community foundations. Those are things like the Cincinnati Foundation. The Greater Cincinnati Foundation funds a huge number of things in Cincinnati. Other public foundations, and then there's something called a donor advised fund, and there's a new fund here in Cincinnati called Project 1000, in which women give $1,000 each year. And when they build up $100,000, they give a grant, and they decide, this is donor advice, they decide who they're going to give it to and why. Okay, a lot of foundations, there's some other group over there making the decision for them. People give money, but the group itself or the organization decides. In this case, it's donor advised. A lot of family foundations are like that. 7 or 8 family members will get together, throw money in, and say, okay, now who are we going to give our money to this year? Well, what do grantors want? I mean, they don't just want to give you money. Well, they might want to just give you money, but most people don't have, most organizations don't have endless money. Even Procter & Gamble doesn't have endless money. Well, what they want, Joseph Barbato with his knockout presentation says, they just want you to answer the questions they ask you. They want you to limit the stories, the heartbreaking stories, like give one heartbreaking story of why you have to have the money, but don't give us endless stories. They just want you to organize the facts and be as brief as possible. They want you to promise what you can deliver. Most grants say if you don't deliver what you promised, you have to give the money back. So you better be able to promise what you can only what you could deliver. They want you to tailor-make the proposals. For those of us who have looked for jobs and sent out resumes, that's called shotgunning. Well, people do that with proposals too. They make one proposal and they send it to everybody, but it's not tailor-made to that foundation. It's not as good as you want. And here's the big one, check your spelling. Check your spelling. So you also need to research, you need to know the language used, have to know how funds are used. What if all of the grant proposals were appropriate, documented, tailor-made, carefully edited? What if 2 proposals looked a lot alike? How do you choose? There's only enough money for one. Let's say it's the Project 1000. So we're a lot alike, you got to make a decision. So here is, this is for my class, the research question I want to ask for a variety of organizations. In choosing between 2 essentially identical grant proposals, what communication method or technique do the grantors say was used more effectively by the winning proposal maker? In other words, what did they say or do that make them the winner over someone else who looks just like them and asking for essentially the same thing? So, money, we love it, we love it, we love it, we love it, we hate it. But when it comes down to it, grants are about money, and let's work hard for the money. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sheila. Obviously, Sheila is a great asset to the civic activities and nonprofit organizations in the greater Cincinnati area. And very proficient speaker, presenter. Our next presentation will be by Gary Reece. He's an ATM Silver. As announced during the election at the beginning of this meeting, he's the incoming president for this club, and he's been a recent contestant for this club representing in the Cincinnati area and division contests for speech and evaluation. Today, Gary is giving a presentation from one of the advanced manual's specialty speeches. And the first of 5 speech projects within that manual is to give a speech off the cuff. Speaking off the cuff is a situation where we may be in any kind of a situation and we're just might be asked, might be in a business situation or some civic activity or even at church, or again, even trying to speak with to guide your family in some fashion, but to be able to speak in an organized fashion on a particular topic, perhaps to persuade your audience about your point of view. And in this case, speaking off the cuff, the speaker has an option to prepare for up to about 5 different topics, and only just prior to the meeting is the speaker, by random selection, is it determined which presentation will be given. So you can't prepare, put all your effort into 5, since there's 5 different potential topics. So Gary is, the selection which was selected today, and the title for Gary's speech is The Real Art of the Deal. The Real Art of the Deal. Please welcome Gary Reece.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As I begin, I want you to ask yourself one key critical question. What's in it for me? What's in it for you, specifically? Now, who here would like to be successful personally and professionally? Obviously, every hand in the place is raised. How do we accomplish this? Donald Trump once wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. This presentation is The Real Art of the Deal. In Donald Trump's book, he explained the proper techniques for sales, for persuasive speaking. I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to keep it real. What I'm going to share with you today is powerful. You can use this in everyday life, not just professionally, but most importantly, personally. Think about this. When was the last time you persuaded someone to your way of thinking? When was the last time you had your way because of what it was that you were able to express to someone else? How did it really come about? Was it because of the words you uttered, the facts you pointed out, the statements you made? I say it isn't. I say it really came down to the relationship you established with the person that you were talking with. You sell yourself every single day to each person you come in contact with, whether it's your spouse, your children, your coworkers, your colleagues, your boss, and sometimes even just plain old strangers. Sell yourself. And here's how you do that. It's called integrity. Your actions and your words meet and come together. The person sees and detects that you are a sincere individual, that you care about them, that their needs, their wants, their desires are important to you. You may or may not be able to help them achieve those, but if you could, you would. And they know that. I'll give you an example. I needed a job working for this employment network. I spoke with a young lady, her name is Sheila Baker, asked her if she would come to this particular function, sit at the table that I was sponsoring. She and 29 others out of the 30 I invited showed up. And out of the kindness of her heart, she contributed to this particular fund. As it turns out, the turnout was so big that they offered me a job working for them. She met my needs. Now conversely, and this was not a I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back type proposition, she asked me if I would attend a fundraiser that she was doing. She told me what it was for. She told me what the reasons were. But more importantly, because of my relationship with her, I wanted to attend, I wanted to help her, I wanted to meet her needs. I wanted her to be happy. I go, and it turns out it's guys, grubs, and griddles, and I had to fix a meal for about 300 people or so. I fixed the meal, and I enjoyed myself like you wouldn't believe. I found peace, happiness, and joy at this particular function. But in the process of that, I helped her. I had sold myself to her. She had sold herself to me. We were, what's the word I'm looking for?
Copacetic.
Copacetic. And the point I'm getting at, in trying to be flexible here today, I don't want flexification to set in though, is this. If you sell yourself to the person that you're speaking to, if they sell themselves to you, you will find a symbiotic relationship that is a beautiful thing. There will be give and take. It will happen naturally. This happens every single day in every relationship you're involved in. You constantly have to sell yourself to your children, to your spouse, to your coworkers. You have to explain to them why it is that what it is you need them to do is important, and vice versa, that you find what it is they want to be important as well to you. If you can establish that, you've got the battle won already. In the job I do, my job is to curry employers to have a relationship with them so that the people that we have going through our program will be hired by these employers. I've been given a quota of 2 new employers a month. The first 18 days I had 16 new employers. And this means one of 2 things. Either I'm doing something right and selling myself, or I have the next 9 months off. Because I've already gotten 18 employers coming in. Now I say this to you. I sold myself to each and every one of these employers. I told them I would fulfill their needs. They were important to me. If a piece of the puzzle that we put in, one of our clients goes into their program, goes into their job and doesn't fit, I'll find somebody else that will. Their needs will be met ultimately, and that's important to me. My success is not based on my paycheck, but based on their happiness. And that's what I had to tell them. And as a result of that, they looked forward to us sending people to them. They could not wait for it. I didn't have to go through the whole sales pitch that was given to me on a script. All I had to do was say, your needs are important to me. I sell myself to them that I can meet their needs and that they are important. If you can do that one thing, if you can just make somebody feel important through your normal communication skills, you will have made an impression, because 99% of what you say, nobody ever remembers. But they do remember how you made them feel. And on a side note, on a tangent, Toastmasters is excellent at bringing these skills, these abilities, these talents to the front. Every single day, you have to sell yourself over and over and over again. And that truly is the real art of the deal. That's how you seal the deal and close it, is by selling yourself. Because most people know if you can sell yourself, you can sell their product. You can meet their needs. I hope that that has been ingrained, and that you think about that, and that you concentrate on it. Sell yourself. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Gary. And actually, our next portion of our meeting is the evaluation section. And according to agenda, Gary is also the general evaluator. So Gary, I'm going to call you up to guide the evaluation portion.
I have an excellent evaluation team working with me today. First, I would like to call upon our first evaluator, who will evaluate Sheila Mudd Baker's presentation. He is Mr. Gordon Kelly, a fairly new member who's only been with the club in the past year, but I look forward to seeing his growth.
Thank you, Gary. I'm going to evaluate Sheila Mudd Baker on what makes a grant proposal win. And there's a few ideas that went through my head here. One is she is a very flexible person as a person. I mean, just to hear some of the things she was talking about, and others, I mean, she's acting, teaching, speaking, fundraising, and I think that's very flexible. I'm going to do the negative first because I really didn't see a lot of negatives. The only negative I saw was I don't think there was enough time for you to, in this forum, to fully do what you thought you probably wanted to do or needed to do. and that was to cover the whole range of items there. But some of the things you impressed me on, Sheila, was you seem to be very sincere on what you speak about. It seems like you really, and I think anyone needs to be sincere. I have trouble with that myself when I'm trying to pick a topic, and I'm always thinking, you know, I'm not that sincere about it, and I just toss it to the side. You seem to be very sincere, very realistic. I liked your Bible verse as evidence that money can answer things, you know, and it can't, because people seem to always tend to take the negative on money, and obviously we all need money. I thought you had very strong support on talking about the things that you talked about, such as being a board member and actually participating in giving free haircuts and that sort of thing. I thought that was very impressive. And you talked, of course, about where money came from, so you evidenced all your items very well. A lot of the factual information was very good, because I think people need facts when they are talking about things like that. You're obviously a very clear speaker, and I think that helps anyone that's listening. You have the ability to hold the attention, I think, of the audience, so I thought that was very great. And one of the things also that caught my eye was the pace at which you deliver your speech. You have a very good pace. So I really didn't have any negatives. I thought everything was positive, and I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Gordon. Now, at this time, I'll call up our next evaluator, who will be evaluating my presentation. And before I give you her name, I would like to ask her to please be gentle. I'm not in a very great place right now at this point in time. I need help. No, be truthful, give me the real deal. None other than Carol Cormalik, DTM, and Outstanding Toastmaster of the Year.
Thank you, Gary. Speaking off the cuff, before he decided what topic to choose, he had 5 topics listed, and I numbered them in what interested me the most, and he picked a number, and it was the real art of the deal about sales. So I am quite impressed how you put this together, so well organized. It was really well organized, and I liked the flexibility of speaking on one of those 5 topics, and you met that criteria very well. You drew the audience in right from the start when you asked a question, who would you like to be successful? Who doesn't want to be successful? So you grabbed us right away. I have been in sales myself and trying to get other people in sales. They're going, I'm not a salesperson. I'm going, well, you sold your husband on marrying you, and you sold your children on a way of life. So we're all in sales every day, and I'm glad you pointed out very effectively how we all are in sales. And the WIFM, what's in it for me? You need to have a big sign that you see this big sign on someone's chest, and when you're talking to them, I make the mistake of what's in it for me rather than what's in it for them. And if I want to get, you brought this out very clearly, if I want to get what I want, I will help you get what you want, and then I will get what I want. You used the word of the day. That was great. How well did you the speaker draw upon your background of special knowledge? You did 2 specific events that happened to you right in the last couple months, and how that relates to your current job, and that you're constantly selling yourself. Your paycheck depends on how well you're meeting the other person's needs. That's really a difficult job to be in. I think that your appearance and manner of speaking says a lot about my confidence in what you have to say. I'm always a rapt listener when you're speaking. You have a commanding voice. You've got good eye contact within the room. Your presence, you're very good at that. You said about, did the speaker base his or her statements on fact or opinion? This is the facts. You've lived this, and that you are looking for peace and happiness on the job. And what was the audience reaction? We had rapt attention, and what could you do to make the speech better the next time? I have a difficult time coming up with someone. If anyone in the audience has something that would help Gary in his next presentation. Gordon, do you have anything?
Gary is... Thank you. When I watch Gary, he is, I don't actually, I know a lot of people in sales, and I've been in sales over the years, and people tend to say that you have to persuade other people. And I just have trouble with that. In other words, me forcing or trying to persuade you, whatever you want to call it, I don't like that. I like, again, the thing that you talked about in developing relationships. And I think you need to stay with that because I feel that way. But evidently a lot of people around me don't because I work among 200 salesmen. And everything is just that. It's like they're always persuading somebody. But in reality, it's really not the persuasion. I mean, you might educate people to the facts and that sort of thing. But I think you're right. It's in sales, you're selling something that you believe in and that they will obviously have to believe in. And it's a relationship. And I don't know. I thought you do. When you speak, you just seem to speak from a knowledge that I feel I have difficulty doing. I can speak about things, but you seem to, it automatically appears that your background gives you that ability to talk about that subject, and it's convincing. So I guess we're back to persuasion.
Thank you very much. I don't know if that helps you any, Gary, but I thought it was a great speech, and I'm looking forward. You have my rapt attention whenever you're speaking. Mr. Toastmaster.
General Evaluator.
General Evaluator. Sorry, Gary.
The key to that presentation, again, is selling yourself. Because if you can sell a relationship, everything else will come after that. Now it's my esteemed honor to actually give my particular evaluation of this particular meeting as the General Evaluator. First off, I presume that this show will start exactly at the beginning of the hour on your particular network station, so it started on time. Secondly, Joe Schwerling, our Toastmaster today. You have a personality that is disarming. You seem to put people at ease. I don't know if it's with the softness, the soft timbre of your voice. I don't know if it's because of the eye contact, but you have a way of making people feel welcome, at ease when you speak with them. I would say to you, as a tip as being a Toastmaster, you did a fantastic job on telling what each person was going to be doing, which is one of your functions, but I'd like to see you give just a little bit of background on each person as they come up. Find out before the meeting starts a little something that nobody else seems to know that would be of interest. Let us know that one of the speakers is only 5'1" and has lifts in their shoes to get her that high. Just as an example, I'm just joking. Word power grammarian, Rick Davis, excellent job. I like the word flexible. I would suggest that's a very, very common word. Come up with some uncommon ways to use it. One of the words of the day that I saw recently that was very impressive to me was the word integrity. Everybody thinks integrity is, your words and your actions meeting each other, but this person came up with another way of using integrity. The hull of a ship has a certain amount of integrity to withstand against the forces that are upon it before it will sink. Come up with another way to look at the word of flexible as an example. The Tabletopics Master, and that would be Mr. Rick Davis, correct? Mm-hmm. Rick, good job. You were called upon that off the cuff, so to speak, and you filled in admirably. To not know that you're going to be doing that and then have it thrust upon you like that, again, that's the essence of a Toastmaster, being able to answer the call when called upon by surprise. I thought that the room was adorned quite nicely with our banner in the background. I thought that everybody was dressed appropriately. I would like to see us give the Pledge of Allegiance before we start the meeting. If not on camera, then at least off. I was very, very satisfied with the aspects of this particular meeting, and I thought that our audience was edified as well. So with that, I turn this meeting back over to our president, to our Toastmaster, Mr. Joe Schwerling.
Gary. And of course, wish you success as incoming president. Just to conclude with a couple of quick remarks. One is, just wanted to mention Rick Davis. He's our principal editor for our shows here, and he does a lot in the background. He was also extensively working in the New Orleans area in his position as medical health with NIOSH. So thanks, Rick. And that tied in fact, our entire meeting, both speeches, have to do with grants and civic activities and helping each other. And again, that's all what Toastmasters here. We're all nonprofit people. Forget about the money. got to figure out some way to fund it. Bill Gates said yesterday, he's all that extra money, doesn't bring you happiness or anything. So he's apparently willing to give away some more of it. So maybe he can subsidize Cincinnati's bank's development, get it on its feet, various other civic activities, and Toastmasters in particular. And finally, I'd just like to, relative to Sheila's presentation on winning grants, Sheila was giving her presentation and as you notice, she ended with a question to her class as to what the most effective method of communication is to differentiate between two equal grants. I would like Sheila to come back up and tell us what the preferred answer was, so we all know.
Wouldn't it be wonderful for me to know? This particular organizational communications class, I'm developing a research topic for my final thesis. So it may not be my final research topic. I'm working on developing questions. But this is a topic, it is a question that everybody wants to know. If all else comes down to it, with 2,000 organizations asking for money, and you get down to your top two people for the money, how do you decide when they seem to, for example, both give to homeless children, both provide services to families, both are very short of money, both can improve their outcomes? All of these things are true, so there must be some communication method that is being used to push one over the other. Most of us just provide a written proposal. Maybe if we're lucky, we get called in to do a PowerPoint. But in a lot of cases, all those decisions are made with just some pieces of paper in hand. So did that person do something special? Did they include a video? Did they put a picture in? Did they tell a story that was slightly more poignant? I wish I knew the answer. I think it may go back to what Gary was saying. It may actually be relationship. What is the relationship between the organization that's asking for the money and the organization that's giving the money? It may be between the executive director and the person who makes the final decision. It might be a chance, an actual set of experiences between the two. It may be the fourth year they've developed the same proposal and gave it in, and they said, okay, you keep asking, I guess you really need the money. We don't know, and that's what I want to know. And while I'm at it, let me finish that very last part. I didn't get a chance. There are people or organizations that give out big, big money, and one is United Way. United Way has a series of grants that it gives out based on meeting the criteria that United Way has. Fine Arts Fund doesn't just fund the symphony and the ballet, it funds a whole series of small organizations. And I'd like to know, well, what makes you decide for this organization and not for that? The Cincinnati Foundation, which is the biggest. The Dater Fund, which does funding for children here. These are all local funds. The city of Cincinnati has several grants. And then again, Project 1000, that donor decision group that everybody throws in $1,000 for the year, and then they get together and say, who's going to get our money? These are all different groups, but they're all dealing with the same thing, people helping people, and there must be some relationship there. And I can't say enough for Toastmasters in helping me get ready for my class this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. And again, thanks and congratulations to everyone, particularly the speakers today that made this such a great meeting. And at this point, I'd like to return control to current President Carol Carmelane. Carol.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you. I would like to thank everyone for being here today. It was a good meeting. When I was in Florida and people weren't going to be available, and then they are available, so it turned out a lot better. And I'm sorry that our one person that was going to be here as a guest wasn't able to be here. She's had a flat tire on the road there. I would like to welcome our two guests that we had. They're both behind the camera. Mike, let's give Mike a hand there. Bring him up front. I thought you said he didn't want to be in front of the camera. Would you like to come up front, Mike, and tell us what you thought about our meeting?
Come on, big guy.
Come on.
Come, Gary is a really persuasive person, and he won't let you get away without it. Let us welcome Mike Schaefer.
I understand that. Thank you, thank you. I think this organization and this club is a really good club, interesting club. You have a lot going for you, a lot of people who, some very good speakers in here, and I'd like to see Gary as your new president to increase the membership of your club, and I'd like to see you grow. I'd like to see you have about 20 to 25 people out here every time.
That's good. Maybe you'll help us grow.
Give an application.
Yes, I'll give you an application. I sure will. Thank you very much. And Brian is from the studio, and he's back there working the board. I don't know if you're just waving. Okay, thank you very much. The meeting of TV Toastmasters Advance Club number 9523 is adjourned. So I need someone to carry.